The electric grid. It's the vast interconnected system that powers our modern lives. Electricity generated at a power plant travels through transmission lines, often spanning hundreds of miles. Once arriving at a local distribution system, it's routed through smaller lines that run directly into our homes and businesses. Each part of the electric grid is synchronized, functioning like a giant electrical machine where all parts are constantly communicating and working together. The supply of electricity can be turned up or down to meet the variable demands of our communities. But how do our power plants generate this electricity? Most of our electricity comes from large turbines that spin generators to create current. These turbines are powered by steam, created by heating water with natural gas, coal, and nuclear fission. We also spin turbines with water at hydroelectric dams, as well as quick-start jet engines and large engines like those used in marine vessels. Renewable energy, a growing part of our energy mix, comes primarily from wind farms and solar panels. These sources are not part of the synchronized grid, but instead contribute electricity intermittently. If there's no sun, like on rainy days or at night, or no wind blowing, other sources on the grid are required to ensure a constant flow of electricity. Battery technology is advancing to fill some of the gap, but physical constraints and economics make it impossible to displace the need for natural gas, coal, and nuclear power on our ever more interconnected lives. Why do we rely on fuels like coal, natural gas, and nuclear to power our electric grid? A lot of it has to do with energy density, or how much land we need to produce a given amount of energy. Years ago, we depended on wood for our energy needs. Wood is much less energy dense than coal or natural gas, meaning we had to burn a lot of it to meet our needs. Deforestation became a huge problem, but once we learned to use modern fuels, our forests recovered. So you might be thinking, why can't we just replace fossil fuels with renewables like wind and solar? Energy density is crucial. To equal the power output of a single plant using fossil fuels, it would take thousands of acres of land filled with industrial wind turbines and solar panels, as well as a huge network of transmission lines. The massive land usage would have enormous impact on rural communities and on the habitats of threatened and endangered species. The land needs are even greater because wind and solar is intermittent. We would need to build extra wind turbines and solar panels and deploy large amounts of energy storage to provide energy when the wind isn't blowing and the sun isn't shining. Our use of renewables will continue to advance thanks to the support of energy-dense fuels like natural gas, coal, and nuclear, as they all work together to power our ever more interconnected lives. Converting our natural resources to energy requires lots of raw materials. Whether our energy comes from the sun, wind, or from fossil fuels, the conversion process starts in the ground, with minerals found in the Earth's crust. Sand, iron ore, and products derived from oil are used to make components like boilers, pumps, and pipes that help turn energy-dense fuels like coal, oil, natural gas, and uranium into affordable energy. Renewable energy uses similar raw materials to fossil fuel development, but requires more of them. We also have to build extra transmission lines and battery storage because wind and solar is intermittent. It also means that we need massive quantities of elements like silver, cobalt, and lithium, as well as rare earth metals like neodymium that must be mined from many other countries and transported across the ocean. Once these components are put to use building and maintaining power plants, they'll last a long time, but not forever. Most fossil fuel power plants, refineries, and factories last for about 60 to 80 years. However, renewable energy plants must be torn down or repowered within 20 to 25 years after they are built because they wear out more quickly. Recycling power plant components helps reduce costs. For example, the reuse of steel helps cut the need to mine additional iron ore. Many components from renewable energy plants, such as fiberglass wind turbine blades, are not recyclable and must be put in a landfill. As we consider building more wind turbines, solar panels, and batteries, we must account for the significant land and raw materials necessary to use them to help power our ever more interconnected lives. What's made the air we breathe safe while energy and economic needs have grown? Let's look at how environmental science and technology made it all happen. Decades ago, studies revealed that our air was becoming unsafe. Pollution from factories and power plants rose steeply while trying to meet the needs of our growing population. Air pollutants like particulate matter, sulfur dioxide, and nitrogen oxides cause dense amounts of smog and acid rain. Starting in the 1960s and 70s, the United States developed pollution control technologies for a wide range of sources, including power plants, and passed laws to set air quality standards. The result? We were able to grow our economy with cheap and reliable electricity sources like coal and natural gas, while at the same time reduce pollution levels so dramatically that the vast majority of our country's air is now among the safest in the world. With our power plants and factories now much cleaner, only a few areas in our country still struggle with air quality. These spots are stuck with pollution generated outside of the United States. Southern California, for example, receives significant pollution from nations thousands of miles away. The pollution is carried by air currents across the ocean and deposited in the United States. U.S. manufacturers spend significant time and resources protecting human health and the environment. Most of these polluting countries have weak environmental and labor standards, leading to unfair trade advantages. The end result? We export jobs and import pollution. This unstable dynamic could become much worse if domestic policies increase the price of energy in our manufacturing sector. The good news is that American air is already safe, and we can export our pollution control technology and cleaner fuels, such as low-sulfur coal and oil and clean-burning natural gas. America's energy and technology exports will help developing nations move millions of their citizens out of energy poverty and grow their economies dramatically. Our environmental achievements over the past 50 years serve as a model to the world as we strive to keep our air safe, while energy use expands to power our ever more interconnected lives.
Good evening and welcome to the 83rd Annual Meeting of Cass County Electric Cooperative. My name is Paul Mathis, Vice President of Member and Energy Services. Please stand for the National Anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Good evening. Welcome to the 83rd Annual Meeting Oh, thanks. The 83rd Annual Meeting of Cass County Electric Cooperative. I'm officially calling the meeting to order. I am so happy that we are together again for this annual meeting. Over the past year, we've gotten pretty adept at virtual meetings, but they're not a replacement for the opportunity to visit personally with each other, have the ability to ask questions, and just get out and enjoy a good meal together. My name is Marcy Svenningsen. I am currently serving as the chair of the board, and I want to introduce you to my fellow directors. Jeff Treebold is here tonight. He's serving as our vice president or vice chair. We'll save our applause until the end, would you please? Glenn Mitzel is here with his wife, Lynn. He's serving as our board secretary. Calvin Hoff and his wife, Caitlin, are here tonight, and he serves as our treasurer. Wendy Loucks is here with her husband, Paul. Doug Anderson is sitting up here. Terry Kraft is here with his friend, Vicki Seberg. Sid Berg is here with his wife, Deb. There he is. And Tom Seymour is here with Anita, or not. Tom is here. She's at home working. Well, that's where my husband, Greg, is. He's home working tonight, too. He's actually out bailing. I just want to say what a pleasure it has been working with the board. They are committed to spending the time necessary for their position, dedicated to serving the member owners of the cooperative, and willing to ask tough questions and express their opinions during board meetings. Those are essential qualities for board members to have, mainly because, as the song goes, the times, they are a-changin'. The new administration has brought back a heightened concern for climate change. Whether you believe that the carbon we emit as a world impacts our climate or not, we still must address this issue because it's not going away. We now have companies and states declaring that they will be carbon-free by a certain point in the future. We have investors who are refusing to invest money in industries that they see as carbon emitters. Some financial institutions are declining to lend money to the energy sector if it's not attempting to reduce their carbon footprint. Well, what impact will that have on your cooperative and ultimately you, the member owner? As a distribution cooperative, Cass County Electric takes power delivered to the substation and distributes that power to the members. We're not anticipating any significant changes to how that's been working, and working very reliably, because this past year, power was available 99.99% of the time. The changes we see coming will impact our generation and transmission electricity provider, Minn Kota Power Cooperative. Cass County Electric is one of 11 member co-ops with a long-term contract to buy power from Minn Kota, and those contracts are necessary to secure long-term financing for building and maintaining the power plants, substations, and transmission lines. The plants have been very well maintained and are performing exceptionally well. In fact, they have had some of their best years for availability in the last 3 or 4 years. The challenge is they burn coal. It's a low-cost fuel source adjacent to the plant near Center, North Dakota, but coal generation has become a target to address rising CO2 levels. Minn Kota Power is now in a position of evaluating a path forward when it comes to future power generation in a carbon-managed world. And it's not that Minn Kota has been ignoring the emissions from the plants. They were early adopters of pollution control. They spent $425 million in 2009 to reduce emissions of several pollutants like sulfur dioxide, nitrous oxide, particulate matter, and mercury, and achieved great success in doing so. Many of you here may remember that our rates went up significantly at that time because of it. But Minn Kota didn't stop there. They also signed contracts to buy the power from wind farms in our area. Currently, 36% of the electricity produced by Minn Kota comes from renewables, wind and hydro. They have really taken the approach that it's not good to have all of our eggs in one basket, because you never know when weather conditions might occur that some of those power generators might not be available. How much influence does Cass County Electric have on the decisions that Minn Kota makes? Well, we have one seat on the 11-member board of directors. Even though we purchase approximately 32% of the power that Minn Kota produces, we are part of a cooperative where one member has one vote. I am familiar with the power supply planning discussions because our board has chosen me to represent Cass County Electric on the Minn Kota board. I can assure you that many different options are being considered for future power supply, including natural gas, purchasing more from the wholesale market, and adding additional renewables. One option that you may have heard about is Project Tundra. It would take the carbon dioxide emitted by one of the plants and store it deep in the ground, actually putting it back where it came from when it was a chunk of coal. We are interested in this project for several reasons. First, it would allow us to maintain the use of our coal plants for baseload generation and continue to pay down our existing debt while reducing carbon emissions by 90%, which is lower than natural gas emissions. Secondly, we believe that this new large-scale carbon capture technology could be transformational in reducing carbon emissions in other parts of the world, notably in China and India, where they are building new coal plants as I speak. Third, we believe that we would be able to do this project without a substantial rate increase to members. The vast majority of the cost would be paid for with grants and federal tax credits. Can I promise that it won't have some impact on rates? No. But the truth is that no matter what Minn Kota decides for future power supply, there will still likely be a rate increase because of additional power supply investments and a potential tax on carbon emissions. It is a challenging process to look forward 20 years into the future as we consider investing millions of dollars for power generation today, especially when we don't have a long-term bipartisan energy policy for our country to give us any certainty on the desired fuel source to generate reliable power, a source that can be scheduled to operate. We also don't have affordable or proven utility-scale battery storage technology available today. And we don't have a transmission grid that can support high levels of renewable energy generation. As we look at the challenges and opportunities ahead, I'm reminded of a quote by Winston Churchill. "A pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity. An optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty." I'm feeling optimistic about the future. One especially bright spot is the management team, the awesome employees that we have at Cass County Electric, headed up by our CEO, Marshal Albright. In the numerous ways that electric cooperatives are measured, your co-op comes out on top or very near the top of co-ops our size. That doesn't just happen. It takes strategic planning, goal setting, and commitment to reach those levels. Please help me thank the employees for going the extra mile in their work for your cooperative. I've already mentioned Marshall, and he'll be up here later, but I want to recognize the rest of the executive staff. With us, we have Jody Bullinger, who is the Vice President of Engineering and Operations. Stand up and wave. There you go. We have Chad Sapa, Vice President of Corporate Services and our CFO. Paul Mathis, Vice President of Member and Energy Services. Tim Sandin, who's the Vice President of Information Technology. And last, and probably the most important, Karen Eggeberg, who's the Executive Assistant and works directly with the Board of Directors. Thank you, Karen. With us also tonight is our legal counsel from Vogel Law Firm, Tami Norgard, who is also with us. And you'll be hearing from Tami later as well. Next, I would like to invite our CEO, Marshal Albright, up to the stage to recognize visitors, guests, and employees working at the meeting.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you, Marcy, and good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to announce the guests we have this evening, and I'll start off with our delegation. On our table, we have 2 letters that were sent to us. One was from Senator John Hoeven, and the other was from Senator Kevin Kramer. And Michael Kelch is here to represent Kevin Kramer, so thank you for sending those letters. We also have representatives from Minnesota Power here. Lowell Stabby and Dan Lodel are here tonight, and also through our statewide organization, North Dakota Association of Electric Cooperatives, Josh Kramer is here tonight. So thanks, guys, for coming. We also have one of my peers from another cooperative, Chuck Reason, with Cavalier Electric Cooperative, and Connie Bitz is here from Dakota Electric. So some of our peers from our industry are here tonight, so I thank you for that. We also have some past directors, served for many years on our board. Dean Rust, Bob Heder, and Bill Bertram are here tonight. And also a few past employees, Linda Otterson, Julian Tweet, and Lucille Johnson. So thanks to those folks for coming tonight. Also, I would like to recognize the employees that worked here tonight. So I'll start off on our IT and finance team. We have Mitch Leiter, Andy Weiss, Jessica Mack, Sarah Ray, and Emily Thompson. And our engineering team that's here tonight is Wanda Threlson, Troy Knutson, Nick Ludowies, Rich Butler, Tony Tassa, Andrew Thronson, Billy Nelson, Tom Selesky. I don't know if Tom's here. I don't know, I didn't see him, but Tom, if you're here, I'm glad you're here. J.R. Prestigard. From our member services side, Todd Bollinger, Allison Sizer, Michelle Dowell, Tanya Jacobson, Delcy Fontaine, Stacy Schmidt-Olsen, Millie Sweezy, Heidi Gackel, Laura Monley, Bob Miller, Chad Brousseau, Shannon Stump, Sarah Hand, and of course Jocelyn Hublin. And Jocelyn, as always, and Sarah do an excellent job on our communications team. Thank them for their help tonight. So before I turn it over back to Marcy, I have a couple guests I need to mention, and one is my wife, because I need to make sure I recognize her because she kind of keeps track of me and keeps me in line. And every year we have this event, and for some reason my parents keep showing up, and I tell them they don't have to come, but they insist on coming, so I let them come. But anyway, it's kind of a special day for them. It happens to be their 60th wedding anniversary today. So congratulations, Chuck and Dorothy. So please stand up. It was really nice of them to get married on the day of our annual meeting, so we appreciate that. So with that, I think I'll turn it back over to Marcy. Thank you.
Thank you, Marshal, and congratulations on 60 years. That's awesome. The first order of business is to establish a meeting quorum and announce the certification of proof of mailing the notice of the annual meeting. I can attest that there is a quorum of members in order to call the meeting to order. I am happy to report that we have 418 members registered for the 2021 annual meeting. The notice of the annual meeting was mailed to all members on May 31st, 2021. And again, I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. The second order of business is to adopt the agenda. The meeting agenda is now displayed on the screen and is on page 7 of the program. This is the same business meeting agenda listed on the notice of meeting that was mailed with the annual report. Are there any objections or additions to the proposed agenda? Hearing none, the meeting agenda will be considered approved as presented. The third order of business is to approve the 2019 and 2020 annual meeting minutes. A summary of the minutes from the past 2 years' annual meetings was reviewed by Secretary Mitzel and included in the program provided at the registration. Unless there is a request from the membership to have the minutes read out loud, and it would be fun to see Glenn do that, I'll ask for a motion and a second to dispense with the reading of the minutes and approve them as presented to save time. Thank you for the motion. Is there a second? Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. The fourth order of business is to conduct board director elections. And at this time, I'm going to invite our legal counsel, Tami Norgard, to explain the election process.
Thank you, Marcy. I'm Tami Norgard. I'm an attorney with the BYLAW firm, and we've long enjoyed the ability to work with Cass County Electric. Definitely appreciate the opportunity to work with your cooperative. I've been asked to explain the election process. I do this most years. This year is a very different year. You have 9 board members on your cooperative. Usually you have 3 seats up for election every year, and this year you have 5 people to be electing, so it's kind of an unusual year. So I'm here to explain a little bit about why that is. And I'm also here to assure you that there's no Russian influence in the election process and no election fraud or anything like that. You all have ballots when you checked in today, so as the program goes along and you hear from the candidates, you will be filling out those ballots. As part of this process, the board authorized absentee ballots as well. And so they gave notice of the availability of absentee ballots. A number of people requested them. And they keep that completely separate from Cass County Electric. So for people that filled out absentee ballots, they get mailed to my office at the BYLAW firm. There's only 2 people that touch the ballots, and it's one of my paralegals and I. And so we have collected, counted, and certified the results of those ballots. I feel like I'm kind of the person walking into the Miss America pageant with the briefcase and sunglasses, and brought the results in today and added them to the box of the formal results. So those are all included in the results that will be counted later. So going into why we have 5 candidates this year, or 5 people to vote for, Director John Froelich last September moved out of his district. He was in Valley City in District 1. He moved out of the district, so he was no longer eligible to serve. So the board in that situation can appoint somebody to serve. And at that time, Marcy Svenningsen was the at-large director. She's from Valley City, so she was put in that position as just the District 1 candidate or director. When somebody is appointed midterm, they have to run at the next election. So ordinarily, the District 1 seat, it would not be up for election, but it is just because she was appointed. If you're appointed during the year, then you have to be subject to election. So then that left the at-large seat open, since Marcy was taken out of the at-large seat. So the directors got to fill the at-large seat. And if you recall, because of COVID, the annual meeting was held in August last year. This happened in September, so there had recently been an election. The board actually interviewed some candidates and placed Terry Kraft into the at-large position, and he was somebody that ran for election in August. And so he was placed in the at-large position. He too, since he was put in place during the middle of the term, he is subject to re-election tonight as well. So those are the 2 additional seats that are to be filled, in addition to the districts 2, 3, and then one of the District 5 seats. District 5 always has somebody up for election because there are 3 of them. So as part of this process, the people that aren't running for election are part of the credentialing committee. The directors look through the petitions, the applications. Karen does a great job verifying all the information and that everybody signing petitions are valid members of the cooperative. And so they have a credentialing committee report, and the bylaws of Cass County Electric, it's kind of the rules by which the directors have to operate. The bylaws say that there has to be a report to the membership that the people running for election have the appropriate credentials. And so to do that, I would like to turn this over to Director Glenn Mitzel, who is the secretary of the board, to summarize the credentialing committee report.
Thank you, Tami, and good evening. Thank you all for attending this evening. At this time, I will recognize the Teller Committee, summarizing the Credentialing Committee report and identify the candidates. First, Teller Committee members for the 2021 election are from District 4, Carl Olson. I don't see you out there. And from District 5, Stephen Knutson. He's up front here. These two individuals will oversee the process of the collection and counting of ballots by the Cass County Electric employees. As Tami noted, this year we have 10 candidates running for 5 positions. The Credentialing Committee reviewed the petitions and the qualifications and found all 10 qualified to run for director positions. I'd like to introduce the 2021 candidates for Cass County Electric Cooperative director positions. In District 1, Marcy Svenningsen, the incumbent from Valley City. From District 2, Doug Anderson, the incumbent from Arthur, North Dakota. From District 3, Brian Gregor of Kindred, North Dakota. Also from District 3, Sid Berg, the incumbent from Colfax, North Dakota. In District 5, Sonja Kay from Fargo, North Dakota. From District 5, the incumbent Wendy Loucks, also of Fargo, North Dakota. We have 4 candidates running for the at-large seat. Doug Kalianoff of Fargo, Terry Kraft, the incumbent from Fargo, Barry Mehring of Fargo, and Michael McMahon of Fargo. Thank you, and I turn the meeting back over to Tami.
All right, so at this time we get to kick off the election. Usually this is done by the chair, but this year the chair is running for election, so I get to have the duty and honor of starting the election. This year, as you can see, there's 2 positions that are running unopposed for District 1 and District 2, and your bylaws allow you to dispense with those votes and just have a voice vote for people that are running unopposed. And so at this point, I would entertain a motion to use voice voting for Districts 1 and 2. Okay, is there a second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. So I will also conduct the election of Marcy Svenningsen in District 1. Will those in favor of electing Marcy Svenningsen to be the Cass County Director for District 1 signify by saying aye? Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. And Marcy is elected, so I will turn the program back to Marcy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. The election of incumbent Doug Anderson, District 2, will also then be held by voice vote. Will all those in favor of electing Doug Anderson to be the Cass County Electric Cooperative Director for District 2 signify by saying aye? Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Congratulations, Doug. All right. Each candidate running in a contested election will be allowed to address the membership. After all candidates for contested elections have had the opportunity to speak, I will ask you to cast your vote for your chosen candidate in Districts 3, 5, and at large. Ballots were supplied to 1 person from each account when you registered. Please choose only 1 name for each district. Cass County Electric employees will then collect the ballots when all candidates have finished speaking. So we're going to start with the District 3 candidates. Each candidate will now have the opportunity to address the membership. They will be limited to 3 minutes at the podium. The first District 3 candidate to speak is Brian Gregor from Kindred, North Dakota. Come on up, Brian.
Good evening. I'm Brian Gregor from Kindred, North Dakota. I grew up on a cattle and grain farm in southeastern North Dakota. After high school, I attended NDSU, where I earned a master's degree in engineering. There I met my wife of 34 years, Deb, and we've been living in the rural Kindred area for 20 years. Throughout my career, I've held a variety of roles. I was a research specialist at NDSU, working both research and education for 10 years. I worked for C&H Steiger Group for 12 years, where I was held a variety of engineering and managerial roles in the development of the quad track and STX tractor series. I worked for Doosan Bobcat for 12 years. There as a program manager where I launched the Doosan Bobcat engine into the loader series and led a 300-plus person team that developed and launched the R series loader. I served in the Barrie Township Board as clerk for 4 years and a supervisor for 7 years. Throughout my entire life, I remained involved in farming, primarily beef cattle. In July 2020, I retired from corporate America to spend more time with my wife. I consider myself semi-retired as I continue to raise cattle, serve on the township board, and I teach part-time at NDSU, the AH in Biosystems Engineering capstone course, seniors on capstone course. As Cass County Electric customers, we enjoy a very reliable, economically priced energy. This is a result of well thought out strategies and policies that have been developed over many years. Proof of their success you've already seen in the reliability and uptime, and we see it every month in our electric bill. I'm very grateful to the Cass County Electric employees and leadership for doing a job they've done so well. Today, we live in a rapidly changing world of increasingly radical agendas, including the drive to eliminate fossil fuels from the energy industry. These agendas are driving new policies that will result in significant new challenges as we continue providing reliable, cost-effective electrical power. To continue Cass County's electric's tradition of providing reliable, cost-effective power, it is critical that Cass County Electric not be distracted from radical agendas, but focus on their primary mission, providing reliable, economic electrical power. If you choose to honor me with the opportunity to represent you on the Cass County Electric Board of Directors, my purpose will be to keep Cass County Electric focused on its primary mission, which is simply providing reliable economic power for its customers. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. And the next District 3 candidate to speak is incumbent Sid Berg from Colfax, North Dakota.
Thank you, Marcy. Thank you, everyone, for attending the meeting tonight. I was asked why I wanted to serve on the board of Cass County Electric. I have served my community now for approximately about 50 years in many different ways. I served 36 years at Red River Telephone, now known as Red River Communications. Retired there as outside plant manager and project coordinator. So I'm very familiar with the cooperative. I've been on this board for 18 years. To serve the community is a goal that I've had my whole life. That's what I've done. I've served in many different ways: park boards, church councils, school boards, city council, mayor, 20 years in North Dakota Army National Guard. I've been on the Minnesota Electric Board and currently serve as Richland County Commissioner and your director from District 3. We have, like has been mentioned, many situations that make this industry very difficult, and that is baseload generation versus green energy, and then throw technology, and on top of that, you've got a basket full of you-know-what. It's a mess, and it's hard to decipher what is the best way to go. It's a cost that any way you see it, it's a cost. Our job is to make sure we run this cooperative to do and keep the best interests of our members with reliable, affordable electricity. That's part of dedication to the co-op, the community, and to you. Coming from the outside plant, we have great employees here. My hat goes off to the linemen. They're out there in conditions that are unbearable to men to restore our power so we can enjoy our daily lives. Heat, cooking, televisions, radios, internet, you name it. They're out there risking their lives. So a special thank you to the linemen, and I'd like to give them a round of applause. We've seen what happened in Texas this past year with green energy. It was not reliable. Baseload generation came through and hit a home run at the end of the day and saved the South. I'm not saying one outweighs the other. We need them both. We need green energy, we need baseload energy, and we need technology to work together. And then this industry will survive. Our board of directors does just that. They work together as a team, and this co-op is run very successfully with the management staff, the CEO, the CFO, and our employees. Without them, this co-op would not be near the cooperative it is with reliable, affordable energy that it provides today.
Thank you, Sid. You have heard from both candidates running for election from District 3, and you are asked to vote for one of them on your ballot. Next up are the District 5 candidates. This is a position that was actually up for election this election year. Each candidate will now have the opportunity to address the membership. Again, they are limited to 3 minutes at the podium. The first District 5 candidate to speak is Sonja Kay from Fargo, North Dakota. Sonja?
Good evening. Recently, I attended the FM Chambers Energy Summit, where speakers discussed the huge gap between where the grid is now and where it needs to be. When the gap is wide, the other side seems foreign, unreachable, tempting us to rely on energy strategies that are familiar. Thankfully, cooperatives are about ingenuity and value to members. We will get to a stronger place on the other side, as we always have, by focusing on benefits to members, by taking one step at a time, and by remembering our ABCs. A, analyze strengths and weaknesses. Our cooperative has an efficient, dedicated staff with a great maintenance record. Let's appreciate and reward those strengths, but also address our weaknesses. Cass County Electric under Minn Kota lacks generation with flexibility attributes. The grid nowadays is dynamic, fluctuating minute by minute. We need energy that responds quickly. Keep in mind that sometimes your strength in one situation may do nothing for you in another. For instance, coal power has a great fuel storage capability, producing large, sustained amounts of energy whenever scheduled. However, coal is not the cheapest anymore and does not ramp down adequately when wind or solar is plentiful, resulting in big financial losses. During normal operations, our focus needs to remain on the least expensive electricity. So, B, bet on the option with the highest value. Not necessarily the first one out of the gate. Carefully consider all options that meet clearly defined goals. Choose the one with the most value, being careful to avoid options that increase production costs, especially when the options do nothing to minimize weaknesses, or they are deemed too risky by the Bank of North Dakota. C, care for our community. Focus on the members and communities we serve here in the Red River Valley. Let's continue to partner with local groups who have the desire to improve the quality of life in our communities. D, develop strategy. Even a hike of 1,000 miles begins with the first step and a good map. E, engage employees and members. We have a democratic business model. Let's get more people involved to brainstorm opportunities for improvement. In closing, I pledge to analyze options, bet on the option with the highest value,
Thank you, Sonja. The The next District 5 candidate to speak is incumbent Wendy Loucks from Fargo, North Dakota. Wendy?
Thank you, and I'm going to try to speak really fast. I want to recognize our rural members tonight. They are the reason electric co-ops were first organized, and were it not for them, this co-op would not exist, so thank you. I've been a director for 18 years. I have many hours of education and training on complex co-op matters, but I have never rested on my laurels. I continue to educate myself, to listen, and to learn. You're all familiar with the adage, don't put all your eggs in one basket. We don't. And we're constantly striving for ways to make our co-op better. You asked for reliability, and we delivered it. Energy is a rapidly changing discipline, and no director should approach energy issues with any preconceived notions about what's best for our members. We have tripled in size since I was first elected to the board, yet because we were early adopters of technology, we are now working smarter instead of harder. There are exciting things on the horizon at our co-op, including new technologies and a time-of-use pilot program that will allow you to select low-cost energy hours to save you money. We take cybersecurity very seriously at Cass County Electric. We monitor our system for suspicious activity and employ innovation and advanced technologies to protect it. We take pride in our communities by sponsoring the youth tour, by awarding deserving students scholarships, by volunteering at charitable organizations, and through Operation Roundup, your donations have helped purchase rural fire equipment, playground equipment, and assisted a rural daycare in staying open. Cass County Electric is respected both locally and nationally. We have been in Washington, D.C. discussing our energy issues with our senators. They know who we are, and they are familiar with our issues. And they, too, are strong advocates for a mix of energy sources. I have chosen to run again because there's still work to be done on energy issues. And I believe I am the best director and the one who can faithfully represent you. In conclusion, thank you for your support, and thank you for attending this annual meeting.
Thank you, Wendy. You have heard from both candidates running for election from District 5, and you are now asked to vote for one of them on your ballot. Next up, we have our district at-large candidates. This is a position that became vacant last fall and was filled by the board until the next election. Each candidate will now have the opportunity to address the membership if they desire. Candidates, again, are limited to 3 minutes at the podium. The first district candidate, at-large candidate to speak is Doug Kalianoff, Fargo, North Dakota. Doug?
Thank you, Marcy. Welcome, everyone. My name is Doug Kalianoff, and she got it pretty close. I want to introduce my wife, Marilee. She's out here in the audience. I'm a lifelong North Dakota resident. I'm a former farmer, rancher, and a business owner, and lived in a rural North Dakota for 45 years. I recently retired and bought a home in South Fargo in 2018. I chose to run for the at-large director position because of my many years in a rural community. Being served by a rural electric co-op and presently living in an urban community. This should be helpful in making decisions which affect both entities. The cooperative business model is unique in the fact that you purchase essential, reliable services at a competitive cost from your local cooperative, and you later share in the profits that are deposited to your capital credits account. I've enjoyed serving on numerous community boards. I felt it was very important to be involved in making decisions that would affect the future of our community. I was on the Beck Communications Cooperative Board for 18 years. Beck is the same cooperative that provides telephone, high-speed internet, and television services to the western portion of the Cass County Electric Co-op service area. I would appreciate the opportunity to represent you on the Cass County Electric Cooperative Board, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug. The next district at-large candidate to speak is Barry Mehring from Fargo. Barry?
Thank you, Marcy. Yes, I am Barry Mehring. I am a lifelong resident of Fargo, except for a brief stint when we moved to Arizona for a while, and then we moved back in '06. So I've been through the whole Fargo public school system and ended up graduating from Concordia College back in 1990. So I definitely know Fargo very well. I'm here with my beautiful wife, Elizabeth, of 28 years. And we've got two kids. One is out of the house and working, and we've got one who'll be a senior this year at Concordia. So I've been in business since 1998. I have been a CPA since '92, and I sit on a management committee that we just had our annual conference here. So I've been very involved with the North Dakota CPA Society, and I believe in market forces. So, you know, when other things come around that make sense, and that's all fine, but I think until then, we have to use what we have. We have wonderful natural resources here in North Dakota, and, you know, being a market force guy, you know, you can't have all these radical ideas and so forth until they're ready and economical. I know they may tell you certain things, but it doesn't take long if you look at some of the real statistics that, you know, we've got to have power that we can rely on. We see what happens when you go down to Texas. And that was a completely different deal. They're completely unregulated down there, and that didn't work. And then you've got other states that are extremely regulated, and I guess, you know, we're regulated as well. But there's a lot of good candidates tonight, and they're going to have experience in different things. And I would appreciate your vote just because, you know, I've been in business for a long time. I've paid bills. I know what it's like. And I'm young in a certain way. I'm 53. I'm not that young, but I think I have a few years left to work and commit to the board, and I plan on staying active. I'm a lifelong learner. I love to read, and as some of us know, getting your CPA, you've got to do 40 hours a year, and I'm other stuff like that. So I would appreciate your vote, and thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. The next district at-large candidate to speak is Michael McMahon from Fargo. Michael?
Thank you, Marcy. Again, my name is Mike McMahon. I'm a long-term employee and manager and chief executive officer, have served 4 different co-ops across 4 different states. Have been retired for about 11 years now, and my wife and I just recently, within the last 2 years, moved back from Austin, Texas to Fargo. We wanted to be back with the family. My interest in the co-op is concerns the mission statement, and basically the reliability and affordability issues. Those 2 things were basically what started the rural electric movement, and I think they're still hold true today. My background includes a bachelor's degree in business from North Dakota State University, a master's degree in management from the University of Mary, Bismarck, and I also hold a double A in accounting that I've used throughout my career. Some of the things that are important to me are the issues that are present today. The, excuse me, the problems with burning coal, the emissions, some of the projects that are being put in place, the Tundra project, are very important. They're going to cost a lot of money, but we have an adequate source of fuel with the coal, and I think they should be pushed forward. My purpose in running, again, is to offer my experience over that past 30 years. So I'd appreciate your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. The last candidate to speak for the district at large is our incumbent, Terry Kraft from Fargo. Terry?
Good evening, co-op members. I'm Terry Kraft, a member since 1984, and a director since October of 2020. I attended North Dakota State University and Minnesota State University and earned degrees in engineering and a master's of business administration. Over the past 30 years, I've worked at the Case New Holland Tractor Plant and Swanson Health Products in positions of engineering, management, and executive management. During my term as a co-op director, I completed a 30-hour coursework to earn the credentialed Cooperative Director Certificate. This education provided valuable insight with regards to our very complex distribution system, the power generation, capital investment, and my fiduciary duties. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but again, Cass County Electric was established in 1937, and its mission was to provide reliable energy at competitive rates. I think you've heard that theme all night. This result, though, is provided economic growth and prosperity in our region, which is very, very important. Achieving high reliability and low energy rates has supported our farming community, our manufacturing community, and has allowed business community to grow and expand in this region. But one of the most important elements is the team of people required to make all this happen. So I would also like to congratulate our Cass County Electric team for their dedication and professional service that has provided 99.99% reliable power at competitive rates for over 52,000 members. With the current and future politics regarding energy policy, Cass County Electric mission statement is more important than ever, not only for us in this room, but for future generations. In the next several years, Cass County Electric Board is going to need to work very closely with Minn Kota Power Cooperative to ensure that we can provide low-cost, reliable power and meet the federal policies. As a director, I will represent you, the member, and ensure we continue to meet our mission statement. I'll use my past business experience and the CCD education that I've achieved to support sound business decisions in the boardroom. I would really appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of the candidates for engaging in this process to become a director. At this time, I'll ask all members to complete their ballots. Please be sure to mark your ballots with only one name for each position. Employees will be coming to your table shortly to pick up your ballot. After the votes are counted, we will report on the results later in the meeting. I am now going to turn the meeting over to Marshal Albright, our President and CEO. Make sure you get your ballot. Once it's all filled out, make sure you raise it up high so we make sure and pick them up.
Well, welcome again to your annual meeting, and good luck, candidates. It's very good to see this much interest in being a director for the cooperative. It's what our cooperative is all about. One thing you'll notice tonight is that I don't have a 3-minute timer up here, so I might be up here longer than 3 minutes. That's I guess the privilege I get. I'll just say it's great to be back in person, you know, to see all of you, to allow us to update you on the operation of the cooperative. And this evening, I would like to share the successes over the past year and review the challenges and opportunities we will have in the future. So when I come to work every day, as we've heard tonight, we have a mission statement, but I'm reminded of that every day when I come to work. And that again, like you've heard, is to serve our members' energy needs with affordable and reliable electricity. And I can assure you that our employees and our board of directors have that same mindset. The key words of my talk tonight are going to be disruption and adaptation. Even this meeting tonight was disrupted because we normally have our meeting in April, and now we're having it in June. It's not August or July, it's June. And really what caused this, the COVID-19 pandemic, required our cooperative to shift gears on the fly and modify our daily routine to protect our employees. Some employees worked safely at home, while others were separated to limit contact between employees. Overall, the virus was contained to individuals and did not transfer between employees. And the board, and that was a great thing, and I can say we put the right measures in place to prevent that. And I'm really glad the pandemic is behind us, and I hope most of you have been vaccinated too. I'm assuming you have, but if you haven't, I hope you have. So I'm going to talk a little bit about affordability. Like I say, that is something we do focus on every day. So what do we do to maintain your bill at a low level or low cost? Well, currently about 75% of your bill is made up of wholesale power. It's a fairly large percent of your electric bill. So the remaining 25% is what we have control of at Cass County Electric. One of our greatest advantages we have as a cooperative is our growth. Currently, we have over 54,000 accounts that we serve. So I started back in 1986. I looked a little younger back then. My hair was a different color. But then we had 11,000 accounts. So we've seen tremendous change over that 34-year period. And it's exciting change because I've had the opportunity to be part of that. So growth plays a major role, and we add about 1,500 accounts per year, which equals additional revenue to support the cooperative operation. One thing that we do well, I think, is we do a great job of focusing on continuous process improvement. We just don't settle for what's worked in the past. We always look for new ways to do things. We have excellent financial management. We invest about $15 million a year into the cooperative with new infrastructure. And when you invest, you have to borrow. And we do an excellent job investing at the right time and taking advantage of interest rates when they're the lowest. Our debt portfolio right now is some of the lowest in our cooperative class of interest for the cooperative. So that, and Chad's going to talk about that. I don't want to steal his thunder. He'll get mad at me, so I won't. Last year we paid out $2 million in capital credits, and also reduced bills by $1.5 million in December, totaling $3.5 million given back to our members. And we can do that because we're a cooperative. We only need so much money to operate the cooperative, and if we don't need that much at the end of the year, we can give it back, and we do, and that works out great. We also have innovation as a focus. We make use of technology. We have one of the biggest things we've done in the last really 10 years is implement an automated metering infrastructure, and that allows us to do many things. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. We use mobile applications for members to access their account information. We promote auto pay, paperless billing, and many more things that we do from an innovation standpoint. And from an accountability perspective, we really try to right-size our employee base. You know, we don't just hire another person when somebody retires. We look at that position to determine how we should fill it. And today I can tell you that we have about the same number of employees that we did 20 years ago. I think that's a good thing considering we've grown by 30,000 employees, or 30,000 accounts. So what does that mean? Well, in the end, our cost to run the cooperative is about the same today as it was 20 years ago, and that's called our distribution adder. Chad's going to talk about that during his financial presentation. So the other part I want to discuss is reliability. How does that happen? Well, we have a fantastic in-house engineering team that saves the co-op time and money. We have a devoted operations team that has to deal with stuff like this. If you look, just last week we had a grain bin fly through our power lines and rip the power lines down. And that happens, of course, in the middle of the night, and they had to fix it. But we have a very focused and a very good lineman group that, you know, works safely and works promptly to restore outages. They connect hundreds of new services annually and are committed to proactive maintenance. We now have SCADA in 41 of our substations. And what SCADA is, it's a way where we can remotely monitor and control the operation in each substation. So in case we have an outage, we can use that to help restore power quicker. Our 24/7, 365 control center manages that system. We also have remotely operated switches in Fargo or the Metro that can reroute power quickly in case we have an outage to get power back on when businesses are out of power. They don't like that. So we need to get the power back on as quick as we can. AMI, I talked about that, our metering infrastructure. We read meters remotely. We've done that now for many years. But we can also use the data to look at transformer loading, line loading, other types of engineering analytics to make sure that we're making the best use of our system. Another technology we use is an outage management system. So when you call in, we have a system that alerts us who's calling in, and we can identify the outage just based on the call volume. So that's a pretty cool software program we have. We use drones, as you see in the picture there. This particular drone has infrared technology that we can sense hotspots. And we do all this stuff because implementing things like this allows us to prevent outages from happening, and that helps our outage numbers be the best they can be. And 99.99% on is the best in the country for cooperatives our size, and we've done that the last 4 years in a row. So give a round of applause for our linemen. So next I'm just going to look a little bit into the future. Cass County Electric from an operational perspective is hitting on all cylinders. But what about our future? And some have talked about that a little bit tonight, but you know, we expect growth to continue. You know, that's something we just where we are located in the West Fargo Metro, it will continue to grow. It has been forever and it will continue to for a long time. You know, the next thing we will look at is transitioning to a lower carbon emission power supply, and that will be a challenge for Minn Kota to deal with that. So talking about future power supply, you know, our focus will be to collaborate with Minn Kota to support and incorporate power generation resources that provide resource adequacy, electricity available to dispatch when needed, that has fuel assurance to keep the lights on and the rates affordable 24/7, 365. You might ask, what will those resources be? You know, coal with carbon capture and sequestration using Project Tundra, natural gas, nuclear, hydrogen, more renewables, hydropower, someday battery storage. You know, there's lots of options out there in the future. But what about coal? So if you look at coal, this particular graph here shows the history of coal use. And if you look specifically about the mid-2000s, it peaked. And since then, we dropped quite a bit. So according to the Energy Information Administration, since 2000, U.S. coal-fired generation dropped from 1.9 billion megawatt hours in 2000 down to 0.77 billion megawatt hours in 2020, or about a 60% reduction in coal. So we've really reduced the amount of coal that's been used in the United States for power generation. And that also equates to a similar drop in CO2 from power generation in the United States. At the same time, global CO2 has increased from 370 parts per million in 2000 to 415 parts per million in 2020. So even though CO2 from coal generation has gone down, CO2 worldwide has gone up 10%. So if we reduce U.S. coal-fired power generation to zero, will we impact global CO2 levels? And according to this information from the EIA, it appears that CO2 levels will continue to rise even if we shut off our coal. And here's why. So if you look at what's happening in the world and the amount of coal generation that's being used throughout the world, the yellow portion is China and India. They use a significant amount of coal in those two countries. This particular graph here, it gets a little bit detailed. I'm not going to go through it all in detail, but I'll just read a few things there. So according to the BP Statistical Review of World Energy, the world used about 491 exajoules of electricity. And you probably say, what is an exajoule of electricity? Well, an exajoule is 277 billion kilowatt hours, is one exajoule. So the world used about 491 exajoules of electricity from fossil fuels. Of that, 157.8 came from coal, and in the US, that number was 11. So the United States, out of the 491 exajoules of fossil fuel energy used to produce electricity, 2% came from coal in the United States. And if you break that down even more, looking at North Dakota used 0.028 exajoules, or about 0.06% of the coal in the world. So when you look at North Dakota, we are a small fish in a huge ocean when it comes to our impact on the world climate. Our political leaders are pressing the utility industry down the path of capturing and storing or eliminating carbon dioxide emitting fuel sources. Minn Kota is no stranger to using zero carbon energy sources and has been a national leader in the amount of wind generation per kilowatt hour supplied over the past decade, and is considering adding carbon capture and storage with Project Tundra to continue that tradition to capture carbon and transition to more lower carbon energy sources. So as we inch away from our traditional fuel baseload resources and transition to more renewable energy and just-in-time natural gas peaking units, the likelihood of power disruptions could increase, and we've seen that, especially if fuel supply becomes a problem. And I have some examples. So in January of 2019, our region was very close to rolling blackouts as demand nearly exceeded production because natural gas fuel supply constraints during the polar vortex, or what we called winter. That was in January 2019, and we had some minus 40-degree temperatures all throughout this region. So, and last summer, California experienced rolling blackouts because of a shortage of in-state power generation. Thanks to neighboring states, they kept the grid operational by importing power from other states generated by fossil fuel. In February of this year, Texas was hit with a prolonged cold weather event causing fuel supply shortages, resulting in significant problems for all generation sources. Rolling blackouts were initiated in the heartland of the US because demand exceeded production. At one point, the Texas grid was within minutes of a catastrophic collapse, with grid frequency levels reaching 59.3 hertz for several minutes. And I read that if it would have lasted for three or four more minutes, the grid in Texas would have been black. And that is not an easy thing to start back up again. It's not days, that could be weeks. So why are we seeing power generation and fuel supply shortages? Well, some utilities and cooperatives are transitioning from traditional baseload and peaking plants to less baseload, more renewables, and more peaking plants, requiring the need for more natural gas pipelines and peaking plants. And this is adding disruption to the delivery of power throughout the nation, really. So talking about power generation, well, this particular graph here looks at January of 2020 for the whole month of January. And the bottom line, or the bottom shaded area in the gray, is our coal generation for the entire month. The blue line is our hydropower from the Garrison Dam. And the green jagged area on that there is wind production. You can see the variability in wind. And also on the graph is a 200 megawatt solar array that was imposed onto the graph based on our solar data that we have at our solar farm in Fargo. And you can just see a lot of times we are selling our excess power into the wholesale market. That time when you see it's low, we had a maintenance outage that Minn Kota has, and they have those occasionally to clean the power plant so they keep running efficiently. So that's what a month looked like in January of 2020. The next graph shows if I took the coal away, what would happen. So everything below the purple line that's white means you're out of power. So there's many times, in fact, there was only one day in the entire month where if we would have had 758 megawatts of renewable supply, that we could have met our needs for that one day. So the challenge is, how are we going to transition away from fossil fuel and rely on wind and solar to power our nation when we see variability like this? And specifically, the last 9 days on this graph, or towards the end of the graph, you don't see hardly any green or yellow. We had a period of time for 9 days where the sun didn't shine and the wind didn't work because we had frosting and all the blades were frosted up and they couldn't operate. So we can't store enough energy prior to this point to make up for those 9 days where we didn't have any power production. That is the challenge I think we have, and something we really need to take into account when we look into future power supply. This particular graph here just shows during the Texas event on February 15th, the center of the country was struggling to keep the lights on. At that point in time, 76% of the power was fueled by coal and natural gas, another 11% from nuclear, and about 7% from wind. But that just shows the value, in my opinion, that coal and natural gas bring to keeping the lights on in the nation. This chart here, I'm not going to go into details on this, but this just shows the variability in pricing and the challenges that we have with transmission and getting a product where we have excess generation to an area that needs it. And that is a huge problem that a lot of money needs to be spent to upgrade the transmission system, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm just going to go back once again to Texas, and I'm not going to go into details because you can't really see this chart, but I'm going to point out a couple things. So this is the month of, it's a time period of about 2 weeks before and about 2 weeks after the Texas event to show what the load was in Texas. So as you can see, prior to that was fairly stable. There's a 4 there, it says 40,000 megawatts. That's about their load on average, but the cold weather started coming, and the center of that graph is February 15th when their problem started. But as you can see, they ramped up and they turned on a lot of natural gas. That's what you see in the red. And prior to this event too, you see all the blue. Well, in this case, blue is wind. And Texas uses a lot of wind, and they rely on wind with their power generation because they do have a lot of natural gas to support it. But when it came down to it on the 15th, there was a lot of natural gas on. Obviously, they had some problems with their power, natural gas and coal and nuclear, because they weren't winterized. They're not used to cold weather in Texas like we are up here. But also, they had a lot of problems with their renewables not coming to the table too. And as you can see, there's not a lot of blue on those days when the peak demand was that high. So I think the point of showing this to you is that there are challenges out there, and there's not a lot of easy answers as far as what power source we are going to use going forward. This particular event just happened last week. This is again a snapshot or a heat map, you'd call it, of power market prices in the MISO energy market. Out western North Dakota, it shows that power market prices were low. It shows in Minnesota the power market prices were high. We couldn't get the power there because the transmission constraints were causing a problem. That's a pretty typical day where you see transmission constraints like this. So again, transmission is a huge problem. This is that same day. We had a record, not a record use, but it was up there to the point where the MISO called on utilities to cut back, and they had a max generation event. That particular day, the load was pretty high at 105,000 megawatts. Again, coal and natural gas came to the table. Unfortunately, that day, the wind wasn't blowing a whole lot, so only 2% of the power that day was supplied by wind. At a recent Public Service Commission hearing that I was at, a representative from MISO said it would take at least a $500 billion investment in transmission and new power generation in the MISO region, or about $12,000 per person, to meet the 2035 carbon limits and EV electrification goals proposed by the Biden administration. So what'll happen, rates would have to increase to support that. And really, we'd have to invest in resource adequacy as we incorporate more low carbon fuel generation sources. We may also see carbon tax someday, that sure is possible. And all this, we have to prepare for the unknown. So I think until we know what the rules are, then we'll know how to play the game. But until then, we can just prepare. And I think that's what we've been doing. So when a decision is made, I can rest assured that Minnesota Power and their board will make the best decision they can to provide reliable and affordable power in the best interest of the majority of our members. So with that, it's time to wrap up with some exciting news for the cooperative. In 2019, or in 2020, Operation Roundup gave out $219,000. And that money is from members like you that round up your bill to the nearest dollar. And that program is a phenomenal program that helps nonprofits and individuals in need. The program is, again, funded by members, and it's just a tremendous program to help our communities. And I just want to thank you all for your contributions to the program and the volunteer board that serves on the Operation Roundup. So that's just a fantastic program. And I'm going to just end with this. So we as a cooperative want to know how we are performing, or how you think we're performing. So we do a survey called the American Customer Satisfaction Index Survey, which rates us with other businesses across the country and other cooperatives. And I can tell you this year we received our highest rating ever. Cass County Electric scored an 86. So our neighbor to the north, Xcel Energy, that's spelled wrong, but they were a 72. The average cooperative our size is a 70, or the average electric cooperative is a 74. Some well-known industry leaders like Hilton Hotels is 82, Southwest Airlines 79. But an 86 is a phenomenal number, and that happens by our committed group of employees. So I'll just end with that. We just have a fantastic group of employees. I'm sorry, I want to jump to Chad. I'm getting ahead of myself here. But the employees are definitely the heartbeat of the cooperative and provide exceptional service that our members expect. I know you've done this already, but please give a round of applause to our employees. I told you my 3 minutes was going to be over. This concludes my update for this evening. Thank you for listening. Next, I would like to introduce Chad Sapa, Vice President of Corporate Services and CFO of Cass County Electric Cooperative. Chad will be presenting the financial report that IDBELLY prepared. Please note that the financials are included in the program that you received when registering for the meeting. Thank you.
All right, I'm looking at my watch. I know you've been sitting in here for quite a while, but I have really good news. We have saved the best for last. Not only that, but in about 8 minutes, you all feel electrified after this presentation. All right, here we go. Some of you that aren't familiar with electric cooperatives, there are over 800 of us in the United States, in Alaska and Hawaii. And this graph shows the vastness of the geography of where all of those 800 plus electric cooperatives exist. And it's pretty interesting. We power over 56% of the land mass of the United States. This is the only non-exciting graph slide that I'm going to show you tonight. But we have to present to you the results of IBALY's audit of our 2020 financial statements that are in the booklet that you have in front of you tonight. And I'm pleased to report that we had an unmodified opinion. We received an unmodified opinion, which means it was a clean opinion of our financial statements. No adjustments were made to those financials. So that's what we like to see and our board likes to see. Also no internal control findings and no compliance findings. So another good report. When it comes to growth, Cass County Electric, your cooperative, is truly a rock star in this area. We have consistently ranked in the top 4% of all 800 plus electric distribution cooperatives in this United States. Consistently, over this 20-year period, you can see from 01 through 2020, we have added over 32,000 homes, apartments, and businesses, averaging over 1,600 new accounts a year. Just phenomenal growth. And looking at 2020, even in the middle of a pandemic, we added over 1,300 new accounts. So that's still a phenomenal track record. Sales last year, however, did decrease. We were down 2.4% in sales, all due to the pandemic. We had a tremendous amount of businesses closed, as you all know, including West Acres, for a number of months. So that played a role in the reduction in sales. However, your cooperative, something we're very proud of, over the last 20 years, you can see by the green line on the bottom that we have operated. This has nothing to do with the cost of power. We talked a lot about wholesale power and where it comes from tonight, but what I'm showing you now has nothing to do with the cost of energy. This has just to do with the cost to operate Cass County Electric. And you can see over the last 20 years, we have consistently been in that band of 2.1 to 2.3 cents a kilowatt hour. That doesn't come, by chance. That is a tremendous amount of planning, dedication by our employees. Consistent growth sure helps. Leveraging technologies of today helps tremendously in reducing costs, and also taking advantage of these historical low interest rates that we've enjoyed for over a decade now. Here's a prime example, too, of how we strive to manage your cooperative to keep within that low-cost band as compared to our peers that are much higher, over 30% higher. Here's a graph over 20 years that shows our, in the bar graph, you can see what our full-time employee count has been at Cass. So if you go back to 2001, we had 93 full-time employees, yet we had 22,000 member accounts. Fast forward to today, we have, just went over 54,000 accounts here at Cass Electric at the end of May. Yet, if you look in the bar graph, we have about the same employees, 94 full-time employees. We've been able to leverage new technologies, have great dedicated employees. And again, we're a very capital-intensive industry, utility industry, second only to mining. So when we can take advantage of, through aggressive debt refinancing and key timing of loan advancements, we can keep our operating costs in that band of 2.1 to 2.3 cents for 20 years like we've done. Here's an example of what aggressive debt management and taking advantage of what the market gives you can do to our costs. We're in the yellow line. We have consistently outperformed our peers, which is cooperatives in the United States that are similar size to us in our average cost of debt. And we're approaching, hopefully, maybe 3% in the next couple of years if these rates continue in this band. So we're very excited about this. We're a growth cooperative, so we're adding $15–16 million a year of new and replacing old plant. So we usually typically finance about half of that and use our internal cash flows for the other half. So we're adding new debt each year. And so if we can add it at these low interest rates of sub 2% is what we're seeing now, it makes a huge difference to our fixed costs for the next 30 years because we're able to lock that in for over 30 years. That's just a great advantage we have in our programs. So our financial statement of operations last year, our overall revenues were $137 million. That was a decline due to the decline in sales and the pandemic. It was down just a little over 2.1%, but we helped to manage our expenses commensurate with that decline. And so our expenses came in under budget also, and we were able to see a margin, as you see there on the bottom, of $6.4 million. So even in the middle of a pandemic, even when sales were declining, we were able to manage the cooperative in a very good position at the end of the year. And if you remember, in addition to a good margin at the end of the year, we actually, in the month of December, reduced members' bills by $1.5 million for the month of December. And it's not the first time we've done that because we came in better than expected than we had budgeted. So we decided to give some back immediately instead of waiting in line with capital credits. So really happy we could do that in December. Our balance sheet, we went over $289 million in assets last year. This year, in May, we're over $300 million, $303 million in total assets, liabilities of $163, and equity in your cooperative of about 43% as a percent of assets, or $126 million. Having a balance sheet that's as strong as you see there allows us to give back more and more capital to the members, to you, the owners, each year. And your board of directors, through our budget process in December, approved $8.75 million to be paid back over the next 5 years at a minimum. If we have better than expected results, it's very possible we could increase that as we've done in the past. So it's great news. How are we doing this year in 2021? Well, we're fortunate that we could hold this meeting this year, unlike last. Through May, our sales are fairly flat, but we had a fairly warm winter that is the main reason. As our off-peak sales are down about 20% year to date. But we're up 0.2%, so we are positive. The really bright spot for 2021 is our strong growth. We're at 632 net new accounts this year through May, almost double what we had last year at this time. And according to Jody in engineering, these new accounts aren't slowing down anytime soon in the West Fargo area. So it looks like a tremendous year for Cass as far as growth. And margin-wise, through May, we have a very reasonable margin, $2.5 million. So I hope you feel as excited about the 2020 financials as I do. And I'm sorry we've kept you this long, but I think it was worth the wait, right? Thank you.
I have to tell you that Chad is, in the middle of the winter when it's cold and it's miserable and we come to a meeting at Cass County Electric and you brave the cold temperatures just to even get in the door. We have to pull Chad off the ceiling because, of course, he's excited. It's cold weather. The kilowatt hours are going out the door. And in the summertime when it's hot and it's miserable and it's pull Chad off the ceiling because he's happy. We're selling electricity. So I have to remind him sometimes that we have to keep our perspective, and it's a good thing, Chad. It's a good thing. It was a great report. We give Chad a lot of grief. So thank you very much for the financial report. And now the results are in for the election. Oh, I heard that. So we will start with District 3. The winner for District 3, we'll have the numbers up there. Our winner is Sid Berg, and I want to congratulate Sid. Good job. In District 5, our winner is Wendy Loucks. And last but not least, congratulations, by the way, Wendy. Last but not least, in the district at large, we have the winner is Terry Kraft. And congratulations, Terry. Congratulations to all the directors. And again, I want to thank the people that participated in the director election contest. It's great to have contests. I think that's healthy, and I appreciate all of you that were willing to step up and run for being a director. Next, we're going to call on our legal counsel again, Tami Norgard, to address any bylaw changes, the bylaw changes that we've made this past year and enacted. So, Tami?
All right, I think Chad said that we're saving the best for last. Was that me? Thanks. I think so. Okay, so the bylaws, as we said, are like the rules that the cooperative is governed by. The directors are allowed to change the rules as long as they're accountable to you and tell you about it. So that's why I'm here. Some of you are probably thinking back to earlier in the meeting when somebody made a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes, and you think, I wonder if we could do that here. And that answer is no, so you have to bear with me. Okay, so there's two main areas that the board changed this year. And the first one is in Article 3, which is on the directors. They made 5 changes, generally dealing with ethics and the conduct of board members. And I think the board holds themselves to a very high ethical standard, and they wanted to make some tweaks to the bylaws just to make that clear and consistent and clarify it a little bit. The first change, as the bylaws currently read, a director running for election cannot make misleading statements, materially misleading statements, or engage in fraudulent conduct. And so that was changed to add in or candidates running for election that aren't directors. So before it just said directors, now they added in saying it also applies to people running for election. The next one was some director election clarifications that specifically authorized absentee ballots and electronic voting for the director elections. Previously, and you guys, you're lucky you weren't here last year, there was a lot of bylaw changes because of needing to change things to deal with the pandemic. I think I had 7 people in the room when I explained the bylaw changes last year, and some of them were light and camera people. But there was a few more things that we just wanted to tweak. It allowed absentee ballots with the changes in electronic voting that we did last year, but we just added a few other tweaks just to clarify the process and the teller committee, et cetera. The next provision is the removal of directors, and what's already in there is when you can remove directors for conduct where they're violating policies or duties, or they can't serve, or if they don't show up physically to at least 9 out of the 12 of the meetings. And what the board did this year is they added a bit more specificity, identifying which policies are in play, saying that you can't violate the bylaws. If you do violate the bylaws, you could be subject to removal. It just reinforced truthfulness when making allegations and respecting others, not slandering others, not defaming directors or staff, and appropriate use of social media to make sure people aren't blasting other directors or defaming employees on social media. So those are just some things that were added. The next thing they changed, they added a code of conduct that all directors are required to sign. And they will be signed now next week at the first meeting, then after the annual election. So basically everybody understands the code of conduct and they're bound by it and have to sign it. The final one in this section deals with indemnification. Normally, if the board members get sued individually for actions they took on behalf of the board, normally the co-op will pay for their attorney and indemnify them. However, there's also some exclusions. You know, if you're illegal conduct or something, the board doesn't, or the co-op doesn't have to indemnify them. And they added in also that if a director is doing something that violates the code of conduct, you know, defaming people, slandering people, then the co-op doesn't need to step in and defend them if they get sued based on what they said. And so it's just something that, again, promoting truthful information and not defaming people. Okay, the last changes that were made was to Article 5, which deals with officers. Some changes that just makes it similar to the North Dakota Century Code, which says that a treasurer and secretary position can be held by the same person. Here at Cass Electric, you have 4 officers, including secretary and treasurer, and it just adds the option to have one person be secretary and treasurer. They added some provisions that say it doesn't necessarily have to be a director, because if you were going to be the treasurer of Cass County Electric and are responsible for all the financials that Chad was just telling you about, you can delegate that duty to staff, or actually the board has the ability with the change to elect an outside accountant, an in-house financial person, and so these are just, it's not mandatory, it's just additional flexibility that was added in the bylaws. And that's all we changed. Thank you.
Thank you, Tami. Boy, she ran through that very quickly. Now, I'm going to invite the member, our Vice President of Member and Energy Services, Paul Mathis, to the stage, and he's going to announce the winners of our door prizes. Is that right?
Thank you, Marcy. Good evening again. I will randomly draw and call out the last 4 digits on the blue tickets that you received, handed out when you registered with us. Members must have a ticket and be present to receive their prize tonight. If your number is drawn, please stand up and we will come and confirm your ticket number. Following meeting, stop at the fountain in the library and an employee will help deliver your prize to your vehicle. The grill is fairly heavy, so you'll need some help with that. All of tonight's gifts were purchased locally, and good luck to everybody. We're going to draw for the Yeti Hopper Flip 18 cooler with caps, mugs, and koozies and sunglasses inside first. Excuse me. Last 3 numbers, 762. Bueller. You got a winner? Okay, Dawson's gonna hold on to your ticket. Now we're gonna draw for the Traeger Pro 575 wood pellet grill. Last 3 numbers, 732. Got a winner? Now we'll draw for the LG 55-inch 4K Smart UHD TV. Last 3 numbers, 757. Winner? Okay. Okay, well, Marcy, if you're back up. Thank you.
All right, at this time, I will ask if there is any old business to come before the meeting. Any old business? And if you are raising your hand, there are 3 employees that have microphones, so raise your hand if you do have something you want to discuss. I have a hard time seeing you. Any old business? Last time, any old business? All right, we'll move on to new business. Is there any new business that we should bring before the meeting? Any new business? 3rd time. Any new business? All right, hearing none. At this point, I'll call for any open discussion. If anybody has anything that you'd like to talk about, questions that you might have. Again, we have microphones available. Oh, that's better. You turned the lights on. Good. We'd be happy to try and answer them. Get the right person at least. So if you have anything that you'd like to ask or talk about, raise your hand. Oh, we got one down here. Keep your hand raised so that they can see you. There you go. I like it when we make them work.
Thanks, Marcy.
You're welcome.
Yes, my name is Warren Solberg, and I was wondering how well is our system protected for malware and ransomware? And then with the entire system that we're involved with down to Texas and everything with ransomware, how is that system, how well are we protected?
Sure.
Are we
secure? That is a great question, and I'm going to remind you after we have the IT person probably, or Marshall answer it, that you asked.
Well, my wife thinks I'm an IT person, but I don't know if I'm in our company. Tim Sandin, are you here? Anyway, Tim,
Yep,
he's the man.
He's the man.
I'll let Tim take care of this question.
This is something actually, while Tim's coming to the microphone, that we take very seriously as the board, looking at how protected are we, how well do we protect members as well. And we also have an annual IT audit. So that's something that we instituted a while back that we think is important as well. Go ahead, Tim.
Right. Thanks for the question, Warren. We do take it very seriously. In fact, for probably 15 years, we have had an annual IT audit where we have an outside consulting firm come in and evaluate all of our security controls to make sure that we are following best practices and doing what we say we're doing. We also probably 5 years ago now, brought in an IT security administrator. We created a new position that's dedicated to information security. So, you know, it's something we've always taken seriously, follow industry best practices, and, you know, knock on wood, we have been very successful so far. So, and we continue to evolve or do new things. We're just at the beginning stages of expanding security that we have on our operational network out in the field to enhance monitoring for malicious software on that as well. So, yeah, let me know if you have any other questions. I'd be happy to visit with you.
Tim will spend hours talking about this. In a good way, Tim. Completely good way. Any other questions? Okay. Oh, one more.
What I was wondering about is like a foreign country sends in people.
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
How'd you say it? Okay, when you're talking about malicious software nationwide, probably Russia, they send people in to a town, and they're looking, but they go to somebody's house. They don't go to the bank, and they don't go in there. They don't go to Cass County Electric or Sioux Falls or something, but they're going to somebody's house. And they it's like you said, the person ends up with some information that could be of value, but they need a quick response and they got to go someplace. You can't spend an hour at the bank jabbering away about something they know nothing about. It's like you got to bump it to Secret Service or something. And they'll they're watching it. It's like you're talking a lot of money to figure out where it's coming from. But if they get people pushing in to, well, FBI or someplace, they can bump it
Well,
to a higher level rather than, just like if you went to the bank, well, you just can't spend an hour at the bank. Then all of a sudden you're
thanks.
going to this bank and that bank and that bank. You have no idea what's going on. Yet he's sending in people.
Well, let me just assure you, sir, that, we monitor our systems. We're monitoring any external people that are trying to penetrate into the system, as well as watching for internal issues. And so as Tim already brought up, it's something that we take very seriously. And we feel that, no one can ever guarantee that you will never have a breach. It's just not possible. But we do absolutely everything we can to isolate different places in our cooperative, different aspects of the operations versus other information. And so we feel that, we're doing the absolute best practices that we can do. But thank you for your question. Yeah. All right. Is any other questions? Anybody else? All right. Well, if we don't have any other questions, Marshal?
They gave me 3 more minutes.
Oh, no.
I'm just kidding. No, I'm just going to tell those of you that want a prize, make sure you go out by the fountain to collect your prize. Thank you for coming tonight.
All right, but we have to make it official. If there isn't any other business to come before this meeting, is there a motion to adjourn? I hear a motion. Is there a second? All right, all those in favor of adjourning this meeting signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Good night. Thank you very much for coming. See you next year.